How did you find carnivore?
Well, it was a long journey, Dave. So sit back and listen. I bought five assisted living homes in 2015 and 2016 as a real estate investment. I had previously done some house flipping where we buy houses that are in bad shape, fix them all up, and resell them to make a profit, or turning some of those houses into rental properties. And one of my investor friends said, "Hey, you should check out assisted living. The tenants are a lot nicer than what you have to rent to normal people." So I took a class in it, and we moved to Arizona. The people teaching the class had a realtor who had some for sale. I liked what I heard, so we kind of chucked everything and moved to Arizona from Minnesota. My kids were starting to want to go to college, and they picked or a school in Arizona that they wanted to go to, Arizona State. So we just thought they're probably going to end up somewhere around Arizona. So it sort of all came together for us to move down there and start this assisted living business. Well, I got down there and I didn't know much about assisted living. I have a background in manufacturing. I ran a machine shop, and before that, I was a pilot. So this was new to me. So we I talked to the caregivers, tried to learn the business and everything, but the caregivers were, they were serving food based on my budget and not on what's nutritious for our residents. So we had a lot of old people, you know, and they thought they were being really nice by serving them cake and ice cream after meals, and just heating up processed frozen food from the grocery store, because they thought, hey, this is really cheap, so we can help our owner make money, and then they'd make more money. And what I came to realize is, I really didn't like seeing my residents in horrible health shape, and all they did was get in worse health shape. So that bothered me from just a conscience level. And B, I noticed that a lot of my residents were turning over very quickly. I mean, I'm trying to find a nice way to say they were dying fast. And I thought, is that what we are? Is just sort of managed death here? I didn't like the idea of it. So I started looking around and thinking, what can we do? I Googled some stuff on the internet. I talked to some doctors. Um, and I had a gentleman come move into my home who was a former pilot too. And his wife moved him in because she couldn't help him enough. But he told me when he entered the home, "I don't want to be here. I want to live at home." And I'm like, "Well, okay. I think everyone here wants to do that. How badly do you want to do that?" And he goes, "I'll do anything. Get me home." So I was like, "Okay. Well, I know that exercise is good for you, and I know, my mother told me don't eat, sugar, and eat your vegetables and stuff like that." So I thought, okay, well, we're gonna clean up his diet, and I hired a trainer to come in and exercise with him, and he worked his butt off. He'd exercise when the trainer wasn't there. He really put in the time, and we kept the sugar away, but we kind of just fed him vegetables and lean meats and sort of what the dietary pyramid told you to feed him. And he got better, and he got to where he got up out of his wheelchair and walked. We had a bet with him, and his wife okayed it, that if he could get out of his wheelchair, walk out the front door, walk down our front pathway, and get in the car all on his own, his wife's car, that he could go home. And in about 7 or 8 months, he did it. I think a lot more of it was due to his constant exercising than it necessarily the food at that time, but I think the food just cleaning up the sugar helped. So I thought, based on that, well, I bet there's other people who'd want to go live at home. And so I thought, why don't we do that? And even if I can't get them to live at home, I can get them to a point where they have a better quality of life. They can hang out with their family more. They can, not just stay in bed all the time. They can go outside and enjoy the sunshine and fresh air here in Arizona when it's not 115 out. They can go with their family out to dinner at a restaurant. They can go for the weekend. It would open up more opportunities, because when you're in a assisted living home, one of the biggest priorities you want is your freedom, and you see it going away when you become incontinent, when you become bedbound, when you're in a wheelchair. So whatever you can do to regain that freedom is something that people really want. All of us want that. So I started talking with the trainer, and he was a vegan. So he was like, "Oh, you got to put these guys on a vegetarian diet. Meat's horrible. The World Health Organization says it's cancerous. You got to stay away from that." So I'm like, I got to stay away from that. So um, we hired some vegan nutritionists, and we put everyone on try a vegan meal plan. It was really hard. They had me running all over town getting some special ingredients and all these complicated recipes. And the residents, quite frankly, hated it. They were like, "I don't want to have salads for breakfast. If you keep this up, I'm going to move out." And I was like, "Well, that's not a good business move." Um, and I wasn't seeing, we did it for a couple months. I wasn't seeing any real results. I saw some people lose weight, but some of them were, 98-pound old ladies before we put them on a vegan thing. And now they're losing weight. They're down to 87 or so. You're like, we got to put some weight back on these people.
It sounds
And
like
I tried.
some people losing weight, more people losing their temper.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of people losing their temper. So, they wanted eggs in the morning. They wanted meat. They wanted hamburgers, those kind of things. So it was quite a change for them. And so I realized this isn't working that well. So I just fired the vegan nutritionists. I kept the trainer and said, you just exercise them. Okay. I'm going to go back to serving some meat and eggs in the morning and things like that. But we're still serving oatmeal and carbs, pasta, bread, things like that. We're just trying to keep the sugar down. And then I was researching just different exercise things we can do for our residents, and I came across a guy named John Jaquish, Dr. John Jaquish, and he's got a weight band exercise set that is very compact. You can bring it anywhere with you, just throw it in the car. And he's a PhD in biomechanics, and he looked at what really grows muscle, and he found you want something that provides more resistance as you get into your stronger range of motion. So when you do a bench press, if you just take it off the bar and bring it down 6 inches, you can do a lot more weight than if you bring it down all the way to your chest. Down by your chest is the weak range. Up near the bar is your strong range. So you don't want the same weight in your weak range as your strong range, because your strong range isn't getting any motion. So he came up with bands that, as you stretch them, cause more resistance. All that to say, he wrote a book on how to get stronger and how to really help yourself increase your muscle mass. And in the book, he said, and oh, by the way, if you really want to do this right, you have to be on a carnivore diet. And he explained what a carnivore diet was and had some studies. And I thought that was insane. I'm like, really? I got all these people on statin drugs. Um, I've always been taught high cholesterol is really bad for you. I've got a bunch of doctors in my facility that put people on statin. My own doctor told me I need to go on a statin, and I was eating vegetarian, and I had a very low cholesterol at the time. And I'm like, well, my cholesterol is really low. But he said, well, you're at the age where you need a statin, which I thought, that's crazy. So I never went on it, but I thought, if I do this all meat diet, my doctor's going to be all over me. So I just thought I'd give it a try. I ordered his exercise equipment just for myself and tried it. And then I tried the carnivore diet just to try it. And I was like blown away. Like, this is amazing. I felt incredible amounts of energy. I'd lost about 20 pounds on the vegan or vegetarian diet. I'm 6'1". My son's 5'8", and I weighed less than he did, and he's not. fat by any means. And all with the carnivore diet, I started gaining the weight back, and I started putting on muscle with the exercise stuff too. But it was amazing. I had a bad lower back um, since I played football in high school, and it resolved itself. Like I did not have any pain at all. I could get out of bed. Like I used to get out of bed in the morning, and it would be a slow walk over to the toilet. Now I just pop out of bed, no problem at all. I gained all the 20 pounds back, plus I added 12 pounds from what I was. And I just thought, this is fantastic. I had some gut issues, those all resolved. And then, so I'm like, we need to do this in my assisted living homes. I went to the homes and I told the caregivers about it at first. And they're like, yeah, no one's going to want to do that. So I, I thought, okay, what can we do here? I talked to a couple families and the caregivers were absolutely right. Like my mom's not going to just eat meat all the time. And I'm like, no, it's fish and eggs and this kind of stuff too. But they're like, no, 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 no. Mom needs some vegetables. So that's what kind of led me into, okay, there's this alternative called a ketogenic diet. And that might be a little easier to sell people on than, you know, all right, you go from eating just regular standard American diet to carnivore in one shot. Um, so I showed the ketogenic care diet to my caregivers, and they said, yeah, we probably can do that. At first, I hired some chefs and said, and at this time, I started just doing it on my own. I bought some cookbooks. I told my cooks to uh, make some ketogenic meals and things. They started experimenting with it and everything like that. And we started seeing some really cool results. We were seeing, well, we were seeing people's diabetes resolve. Like the doctor said, your blood sugar's stable. You don't need insulin anymore. We were getting people off metformin. We were seeing people start to be able to stand and walk. And this was in conjunction. My vegetarian trainer decided to go be a policeman. So we lost him, but I hired some other trainers. And they were both very much into the ketogenic diet. And so they were working hard with our residents combined with when I say ketogenic, I was like, let's get a lot of meat. Okay. They'll have some veggies on the side. Let's get the really low carb stuff, the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, and then the high starch, high carbohydrate ones like carrots, for apples and bananas. They thought they were being nutritious by giving them all those. We got rid of all that, and that seemed to be okay with people. But people were getting up out of wheelchairs and starting to walk again. People were getting out of bed. We did at this time also. I take some people with that are on Medicaid, which is sort of a U.S. program for very poor people to have health care. And Medicaid does pay for my assisted living. Normally, regular insurance doesn't. They got to pay out of pocket, or there's some special insurance they can buy, but if they didn't buy it early in life, they won't take advantage of it. But the Medicaid pays, but it doesn't pay much. So I can only take a couple of those people. So I called my Medicaid insurance people and said, what can I do to increase my rates? What are you having trouble with that you'd be willing to pay more for? And they right away said, obese people. These obese people check into hospitals and they stay forever and they never lose any weight. And I go, okay, great. I will take an obese person and let's see what we can do with them. And so we took a lady who came to us weighing 550 pounds. They won't, obese is defined as anything over 350. And I hired a a trainer at this time. I was in a Facebook group with John Jakish, this exercise guys, sort of comparing notes and everything. And there was a trainer that advertised in there that was, he was about 290 pounds, and it was 10% body fat kind of thing. He was all muscle. And he was a huge fan of the carnivore diet. So I hired him and said, I got this lady, I'll pay you to train her, and we'll do it all by Zoom. He's in Las Vegas. His name's Daniel Magyar, and his website is DM Pro Trainer. So if you want to lose weight, this is the guy you want. So we hired him for about 6 months, or no, probably a year. And he worked with this girl, and he put her on a strict carnivore diet, did some fasting to nothing more than 48 hours, generally 24. Or he'd tell her, you get 1 meal days and 2 meal days. Okay, the 1 meal day, obviously, you're almost on a 24-hour fast. The 2 meal days, you're on like a 16-hour, and then every so often he'll throw in a full day fast or two. Well, she lost 230 pounds in 9 months. Yeah, she got down to about 320, and then she moved out. She was thrilled, and moved into an independent living place. So she was doing really well, and I think she kept losing weight after that. So we were thrilled with her. So that program kind of fizzled with Medicaid. They didn't want to keep paying it, so I didn't have that. Although I've had several people come to my homes that are overweight, and we've helped them lose between 70, and I've got a lady now that's pushing 190 pounds lost. She came to us totally bedbound, and she's almost getting out of bed now. She's standing up by the bed, and she wants to get on a plane and fly home to New York, and that's our goal, is to get her down. So she came to us about 480 or so, and she's 290 at the last weigh-in, all on a carnivore diet. So, and she was, when she first came to us, she was going to the hospital every week with a problem. You know, we'd have to call 911 and have them bring the stretcher in and everything like that. And since she really committed to it about 8 months ago, she has not been to the hospital since. And all the pain and neuropathy she had, that's completely cleared up. So I'm a huge fan because I see the results every day. But just getting people off their diabetes medications, because if you have diabetes, your chances of having dementia are about 60% higher than if you don't have diabetes, as well as Parkinson's, as well as heart problems, as well as all these other things that we see in assisted living. So by getting their diabetes resolved, we can get them, a lot of their other problems we can avoid, much more than just giving them statins for heart problems, So, and we try to we try to encourage people to move towards the carnivore diet. We're getting more people who want to move their mom or dad in and be on the carnivore diet, but we still have some people who want the ketogenic diet. We have some that just not interested. And so what we'll do is make a carnivore meal. We'll add the ketogenic vegetables, and then we'll add a potato or carrots or something like that to make them happy. So they're still getting a lot of nutrients, but they don't feel like we're restricting them. So as it went on, and as we were getting better at this, I went on a few podcasts, and a lady named Maria Emmerich reached out to me and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I've written a whole bunch of ketogenic and carnivore cookbooks. I want to send them to you." So she did, from Hawaii, at her expense, which I thought was amazing. And we started using her cookbooks. And the great thing about her cookbooks is you can make a lot of meals that look like normal meals, but you swap out some ingredients, and it becomes carnivore or ketogenic, like very low carbs. You can make carnivore bread. You can make carnivore ice cream. There's all kinds of things we can do so they don't feel like we're just depriving them of everything. And then we make them happy. It tastes good. It might taste a little different than what they're used to within standard American diet, but elderly people, their taste buds aren't what they were when they were, in their 20s. And so they don't really notice a big difference. So we'll serve them, lasagna that's all meat with some zucchini strips in it instead of noodles, and they'll be think they're eating lasagna, but they get a whole lot of ground beef, and some cheese with it, and they're happy as can be. And in fact, a couple of them said the cooking's improved since we did this, so they don't miss the other stuff. Yeah. So with Maria came to one of our to give sort of a cooking demonstration at someone's local house. One of her coaches, like health coaches that she trains and certifies. And so I brought some people. I brought some of the success story people that we had over there, and the owner of the house, Carrie Camp, she said, "I love what you're doing. Will you hire me? I'll come in and train your cooks and show you how to make these meals really good." So I was like, yeah, I'd love to hire you and do that. So we brought her in. We've actually hired people to just be dedicated cooks also, because it's very easy for a caregiver. They've been taking care of the residents all day, changing their diapers, getting them out of bed, putting them back in bed, helping them to the toilet, all of that stuff, showering them, that by the end of the day, if I expect them to cook a meal, they're going to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for everyone. So I don't want that. So I want the cooks to be fresh and be making meals that are really good for them. So we hired some cooks. This trainer came in and she trained them all. She comes by once or twice a month to see how it's going. She's always available, that we can, our cooks can call, "I want to try this," kind of thing. And it's working really well. And we see a lot of people. So the big one I'm trying to do is heal dementia, and that's the really tough one. You can see the changes in people's bodies in a month or two. Obviously, type 1 diabetes, there's problems with your pancreas, so it's going to be harder to solve that one. But we are seeing, we've had a couple type 1 diabetics, and they don't need as much insulin. We can reduce the amount of insulin they got. The type 2s, we can get them off completely from insulin, but the type 1s, uh, it's not as much. But the body heals really fast. We see people do that, but the mind is a lot slower. So we're really trying to push that with the ketogenic or carnivore meals along with other therapies. So we've got red light therapy, where we have helmets that they put on their head, or a panel they sit right in front for their head. We have saunas, because one of the things about dementia is you you may have a toxic load in your body. You may have been around Roundup, or you may have worked in a paper mill your whole life. We've got a lady like that. Or you've got, you've been around chemicals and solvents in an industrial setting.
Mhm.
And so saunas help you sweat, and sweat is one of the best ways to eliminate your the toxins from your body. Not to mention, the carnivore diet really helps people's liver, kidneys, internal organs. Liver is one of your big detox organs to get stuff out of your body as well. We actually had a guy go from stage 4 to stage 3 kidney disease with the carnivore diet. He lost 70 pounds on it, and his A1C went from like 9.5 or something like that to 4.9. We had his most recent reading. It's really cool to see. But the dementia piece, so we're trying, besides those therapies, we still do a ton of exercise with them. We get them out walking, we get them in the sun, everything like that. And then we're trying to get them to a hyperbaric oxygen clinic, to because with hyperbaric oxygen, it forces oxygen in their body and into their brain, which one of the problems with it is dementia is a lack of oxygen in the brain. It also helps to have a whole lot of ketones. So when we get them in ketosis with a ketogenic or carnivore diet, the ketones go up and fuel the brain. Like I said, with diabetes, you've got a 60% higher chance of dementia. Well, what's happening is you've got inflammation in your brain, and you're getting insulin resistance so that it can't get the glucose into the cells of your brain, and it doesn't have an energy source. Whereas if we can transfer them to ketosis, they can get ketones to fuel their brain as well. So the combination of the ketones and the oxygen, and the guys at the hyperbaric clinic say, we can't do dementia on our own. We need you to do what you're doing as well to help people. But we've taken two people through sort of a full regimen of hyperbaric oxygen, and it's pretty much resolved their dementia. Both people have moved back home. One lives by herself in an apartment up near Seattle, and one is back in West Virginia with his wife. She continued the hyperbaric oxygen with him. She's got him on a very strict ketogenic diet, and we did tests with them before and after. The lady, the dementia tests are generally scored out of 30. There are a bunch of questions and exercises and things you do. And 27 to 30 is normal, you and me. 20 to about 26 is mild cognitive impairment that you're starting in the early stages of dementia. And then below 20, you've pretty much got dementia. The lady, when she came to us, was scored a 15. When she left, she scored a 26. And then the gentleman, he wasn't with us very long, but we went from about 21 to 25 after just a couple months with the hyperbaric, with the diet, with exercise, all of that kind of
That's
thing. So
fantastic.
yeah, I'm a big believer. In fact, we're going to launch a big sort of GoFundMe because hyperbaric oxygen is not cheap, and it's not no insurance covers it for dementia. So we're going to try to raise some money to help our other residents. And if anyone wants to do it, if you go to givesendgo.com/hyperbaric-oxygen, there's a little film that'll explain everything. Yeah, I really am a big believer in this. I think it's really going to help. And the people that we put through, we see the scores improve. So I'm trying to get hyperbaric oxygen in my assisted living home. You can buy a soft chamber that they could do every day kind of thing. But the Department of Health in Arizona won't allow me to. They said it's not a clinical setting. However, I have a state senator that has pushed a bill through to allow hyperbaric oxygen in assisted living. And it made it through, it made it out of committee. It passed the Senate. It's in the House of Representatives in Arizona now. It died there last year. They never voted on it, but she's trying to get it up and voted on again. And I'm hoping that this fundraiser and the results we get with the hyperbaric, taking them to the therapy, shows people, hey, this is something we really should investigate for dementia. Because the people that, I mean, it was amazing. I took the guy a couple times, and when he got out of the chamber after a whole bunch of dives, he'd say to me, "Oh wait, I forgot my wallet and keys in the locker over there." And I'm like, "You remembered your wallet and keys?" So, and then the lady, when she came back from the hyperbaric, was like, "Hey, did you get that email I sent to you yesterday?" And I'm like, "You remember you sent me an email yesterday?" So it's really amazing to watch, and I'm absolutely thrilled that we can help people like that. I I've had 9 people move back home. Those 2 were the dementia ones. We've had, a lot of other issues that they've had: heart disease, fibromyalgia, diabetes, those kind of things that we resolved and or got them well enough that they could move back home and live at home. Ultimately, I'd love to do that for everyone, but even if I can get them a better quality of life, they'll they're still going to benefit. Their family's going to benefit. We had a guy at 98 years old, go on a cruise with his family for like 10 days. We lent them a caregiver to just check on him. The family paid the caregiver's way on the cruise, and he had a wonderful time. Came back, passed away about 6 months later. But what a way to go! At 98.
Yeah, but with all these amazing results, I mean, you must be getting some pretty good feedback from the families.
Oh yeah, go to Google, you'll see some reviews. But yeah, the families absolutely love it. They think it's fantastic. I get a lot when I first started doing this. I floated it to a couple other assisted living homeowners and other people, and they were like, "Well, if you make everyone better, then you won't have anyone in your homes." And I was like, "If I make everyone better, I'm going to have no end of people in my homes." And they're gonna all, I'm seeing that. Like, I get calls practically every day of people who want to move their mom or dad into our homes. And like during COVID, I didn't lose a single person to COVID. And nursing homes were the big epicenter of where all the deaths were happening. We didn't lose a single person. We had one person get COVID, and he insisted to go on going to the hospital. I told him, "You're going to be fine, stay here," but he wanted to go, so we sent him, and he passed away in the hospital. So, I guess maybe that's the blemish on my record, but he didn't pass away in my homes. And we had one or two homes during COVID that didn't lose anyone for any reason for 2 years or so during COVID. So, I mean, I had 100-year-old lady who got COVID, and in 3 days she had a cough that went away, and maybe a little fever, and she was fine again. So, um, I really think this is what the future of assisted living should look like. To think of it more as a rehab center than this is where you're going to move in and die.
Right.
We're all going to die. I can't stop that. But wouldn't it be better to die, when you go to sleep one night rather than have this gradual decline over 10 or 20 years? I'm firmly convinced you can prevent Alzheimer's and dementia with these diets. Like I tell people, I've had several vegetarians call about moving into my homes because or their families because they have dementia and all these problems. I've never had someone say, "My mom's been on a ketogenic or carnivore diet for years, and now she needs to move into your home." I never had that call.
So at this stage, with these kind of results across multiple assisted living facilities, the New York Times should be knocking your door down to get this story out. Has this happened?
I would hope. I've been on a little news program, but I I have a doctor who has um, secured some funding from a very generous organization that's very interested in ketogenic diets, the Bazooki Group, to do a, I guess, sort of, it's not really officially a clinical trial, but a case study. So the doctors are going to provide continuous glucose monitors, ketone meters, all the stuff to track it. And we're going to probably start early next year, they think, with everyone that moves into my home, take a whole bunch of baseline labs and then put them on these meal plans and then take it at after a year, 6 months, something like that. And as we get more and more people moving into the home, we'll get better and better data and show people that, hey, this stuff really works. So I'm hoping that the results of that trial will really help people see the benefits of this.
Mm. Let me ask you something. That's just come to mind. Have you noticed at all any changes with the patients relating to their oral health over time as they do carnivore and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Let's start with uh, if you dementia. One of the big causes of dementia is poor oral health, and the gingivitis, the periodontal disease that you get can migrate into your brain and cause a lot of problems up there. If you see people with dementia, we have it all the time. People checking into our assisted living homes, they their teeth are horrible. Like, they either have dentures or they have you know crowns and root canals and missing teeth and things like that, all probably mostly from a poor diet. So, in terms of the carnivore actually improving their dental health, it does. What we do is we take a lot of them to dentists, even holistic dentists, to remove some of the mercury fillings. but at least to get rid of the root canals. The root canals cause infections almost 100% of the time. I had a root canal. I was screwing around on an ice rink when I was in college and knocked a tooth out. Um, and I was feeling a little down from that, little brain fog and stuff like that. And I had a very good dentist remove it and put an implant in, and it cleared up a whole lot. But I can tell you, it's hard for me to say that they're their teeth are improving on a carnivore diet because most of them are really bad to begin with. But I can tell you, none of them are getting worse on it. Like we don't have to go have more teeth extracted or anything like that. And some of them are kind of hard to get them to brush their teeth or to help them brush their teeth, especially if they have dementia. But you don't we take them to the dentist regularly and we get, hey, it's still going good, you don't have any infections, everything's going good. And I can tell you personally, since I've been on the carnivore diet, I love going to the dentist because they every time they're like, teeth look great, we'll see you in 6 months. Never any cavities, nothing. So I and I'm not a religious flosser, brusher, water pick guy. I just brush my teeth. And I do it with baking soda. I don't do it with fluoride toothpaste. So,
Yeah. Um, so I recently spoke to a bioengineering professor from Stanford about this, and she was talking about, as you mentioned, how gingivitis is like can travel up into your brain and cause all sorts of problems, including dementia. Um, and the interesting thing, and something that carnivore seems to help with as well, the thing that helps the gingivitis survive is candida. And candida is
yeah, I could
also
see
cleared
that.
up with carnivore because there's nothing for
Oh,
the
yeah,
candida to feed on.
absolutely. No, I completely agree. In fact, this might be too much information, but when I first moved down to Arizona, I had diarrhea for like 2 years straight. I just couldn't have a solid movement. And I went to a whole bunch of doctors. They did a whole bunch of scans. They did, um, you know, ultrasounds, things like that. All they could give me was, oh, you should take a probiotic. And that didn't do anything. So I finally, just out of desperation, went to a functional medicine guy, and he gave me some, I guess, really powerful probiotics. But he just said, cut out the carbs for 2 weeks. Here's what you want to eat, and it was kind of a carnivore diet. So that was kind of my first inkling into it. This was before I got really into it with the assisted living homes. But in a week and a half, I was back to normal, like really nice bowel movements, no problems at all. I'm like, wow, that really worked. So I a lot of studies now are showing that bad guts lead to bad brains, that your gut is like your second brain. Clearing up your gut is going to help your brain. Parkinson's, they all say, starts in your gut. And that's what we want to do. In fact, we do some testing of people's guts to see what kind of bacteria are in there to make sure that it's okay. Because, like in assisted living, UTIs, urinary tract infections, run rampant. They're everywhere, and a lot of those start in the gut. And a lot of people on these diets don't have any UTIs at all. And the medical profession's solution for UTI is load them up on antibiotics. Well, antibiotics destroy everything in your gut. It's a bomb going in your gut. So um, the diets really help repopulate the gut and make it a lot better. So, and then once they're not getting the UTIs, they're not exposed to those antibiotics, and their guts just get better and better.
Yeah.
And the caregivers love it because they don't have to deal with them in the bathroom as much.
Well, see, and that's the thing, right? Like, this
Hmm.
kind of makes the job for everyone easier all round, right?
Oh, yeah, no, the caregivers love it. Right, everyone's walking around. They're not having to like lift them into a bed or use a Hoyer lift, to get them in and out of bed. They lose weight, so they're easy to assist into a wheelchair. Um, they're more talkative and more awake. It makes it more fun for them, and caregivers really get attached to residents. Like they become really good friends and stuff. So when one passes away, it's kind of a traumatic thing. And, um, so the caregivers get to be with them for a lot longer. They're proud of, how long they can keep them doing well. And we're really proud when we have one go home. We have a big going away party and things like that for them.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, so the thing that strikes me about all this, and you talked a little bit about it before, was, I think the typical business person going into this type of business would be like, okay, how do we just cut costs the bare minimum? Feeding them porridge 3 meals a day. That'll be the cheapest way to kind of do it. Just fill a vat of porridge and let them eat out of that, and we're all good, kind of thing. But obviously, that's not going to create a good long term outcome. But have you had anyone else kind of inquire, like, what are you doing, and is this something that's good to
Yes.
replicate?
Yes. So it's slow going. Like the big facilities are on corporate contracts. They're franchises of some big corporation. And so they have a contract with a food distribution company, and they've got the menus set for all of their facilities across the United States. So they're the ones I've talked to about that were like, love what you're doing. We ain't doing that here. Um, Smaller homes, I've tried to show them how to do it, and I'm having varying success with that. I've had one or two of my managers actually open up their own home, and I tell them, I can bring you people, but you've got to do what I'm doing. And we had one manager had someone move back home. They brought their A1C from 8.5 to 5.6, something like that. Got them off their diabetes meds. They moved back to a farm in Iowa. They've had a bunch of success like that. So I have had some interest. Some of the homes are like, your food budget's going up. That seems pretty expensive. And I'm like, well, okay, but all my beds are full practically all the time. I have people stay with me for a really long time. There's not a lot of turnover. And a lot of the assisted living people that we get come from referral agents, which are they're ex sort of social workers, nurses, hospices, things like that, that know everyone in the medical field in the area. And then so the hospital's like, hey, we've got someone who needs assisted living. They call that buddy of theirs and they bring the person to our home. And then they get a like almost a month's fee as a commission that I have to pay them, or another homeowner has to pay them to move the person in the home. Well, I have people just calling me, out of the blue, like from their home. Like my mom needs to move in here, my dad. So I eliminate those referral fees. A, through people staying with me longer, but B, also through word of mouth that, hey, Hal's home really tries to get you to get better. So an empty bed is typical from $4,000 to $10,000 in an assisted living, and the referral fee is going to be $4,000 to $10,000 a month. So the $1,000 that we spend extra a month on food saves me a whole lot of money. From a business standpoint, it seems to me to make sense as well.
Mm. I imagine over time, that word of mouth is just gonna continue, because and get bigger and bigger and bigger, because when I would imagine when a family is getting to the point where they're thinking of sending their, um, mother, father, to an assisted living facility, that's when they're getting to the point of thinking, I mean, there's just no hope now.
Right.
It's just we've gotta get them into a place that can watch them 24 hours a day, basically, and assist them 24 hours a day. And then to
Hmm.
know that there's a place out there where there might actually be hope. of turning the situation around. That's a massive thing.
That's what I'm trying for. Now, I want to caveat that with if your mom's 95 and on hospice and she's had dementia for 17 years or something, I, I'm not going to be able to do much for her. We need to just prepare for the end here. Um, what I really like about this is that as the word gets out, I'm getting more and more residents who just got their dementia diagnosis, and those are the people we really can help and turn around. As you said, people put their mother and father in the nursing home and the assisted living when they're getting towards the end and there's no hope and they need the 24/7 care. And that's true. A lot of them try to take care of their loved one at home as long as possible, and they get very burned out from it. A lot of caregivers get sick, get cancer, totally stressed out. And then they're okay, now go to assisted living, now fix them. And I'm like, yeah, you should have brought them to me, so a long time ago. So what I'm seeing over time is as the word gets out, people are bringing them to me earlier and earlier. The two people that we resolved their dementia, they were very early on in their dementia journeys. They were young, they were in their early 70s kind of thing. So those are the ones that I really can help and we can really make a difference. Yes, people who have weight problems, we can help at any age kind of thing. But for the dementia thing, it's a progressive disease and or Parkinson's or any of those cognitive decline kind of diseases. The best shot you got is, well, the best shot you got is prevention. The second best shot you got is to do what I'm doing, whether it's in my places or at your home, as soon as possible after you get that diagnosis. But I really think if you're on a carnivore or low carb diet, you really don't have to worry about dementia too much, unless there's some really big genetic component or something. Um, I thoroughly commit. Dementia starts in your 30s and 40s. You just start seeing it in your 60s and 70s. And so, and if you see your mom or dad have it, you might have some genetic predisposition. All the more reason to get on these diets and exercise and mitigation procedures as quick as possible.
Over the years, I've known people with dementia, and I can see how it would be very important to get them in early because, at the time that it was getting really, really serious, I mean, you can see in their eyes even there's no going back, right?
Right. Yeah. I hate to say it, but it's a death sentence for most people.
Uh,
It's just how long it's going to last. And a lot of the dementia medications um, may slow it down just a little. And a lot of families are like, I don't want it slowed down. This is horrible. Let's just get it over with. And a lot of those medications have some pretty bad side effects. So I'm not telling you any medical advice or anything, but I would tell people to research those medications thoroughly.
right. Yeah. And I mean, as we see with everything else, there's no medication that comes with no side effects. It's
No, steak.
yes, steak. Exactly. Um,
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
just, yeah, on the medication thing real quick. One of the things we really try to do with our residents is try to take them off medications. So they'll come to us, a lot of the elderly will come to us 20, 30 medications that they're taking. And so we'll work with the doctor and say, can we take them off medications right now? Because what happens is a lot of times the mother or father will fall in their home, break their hip, go to a hospital. They'll get some medications there as they have to do surgery on them or something. Then they'll go to a rehab. The rehab will add medications to them. Then they'll go to the assisted living home, and the doctor at the assisted living home will add medications. And none of those doctors want to countermand the previous doctor, so they don't take them off. They just add more to them, and they end up with these 20 or 30 medications where we sit down with the doctor and say, what can we take them off right now? And maybe there's something then, maybe not. Obviously, we need a doctor to tell us one way or the other. And then we start setting up markers of if their blood pressure gets to this level, if their blood glucose gets to this level, if their cholesterol or triglycerides are here, can we remove them of this? Or they seem happy in our home, can we get rid of the antidepressants and let's set up a tapering schedule to take them off? So as you're doing the carnivore diet, the ketogenic diet, you're exercising, your body's getting better. Sometimes we even have to worry, hey, they're on a high level of insulin and their blood sugar's crashing the other direction. So we have to get them off the insulin to protect them from having the wrong effect of the insulin.
Right. Um, I mean, and so this is another benefit for patient and family, well, multiple benefits for patient and family. Getting them off the medications is going to get rid of all the other side effects here, there, and everywhere. And um, their body starts kind of, I guess, returning to a normal kind of baseline. But also, it's like all that cost disappears.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. I Medicare, the U.S. government insurance for elderly people, pays for some of it, but there's definitely copays, and there's some expensive medications out there. And to get them off, that's a godsend for the families to do that. It really helps. And a lot, like you said, a lot of those medications are to counteract side effects of other medications. So if you take them off one, you can take them off another too, because they don't have that side effect anymore.
Yeah. Um, it seems like the thing for me that has always been, that I get the feeling from skeptics is that this is all woo-woo. You know, if it's not kind of a pharmaceutical drug with a study that proves it works, if we're just saying, eat naturally, like let your body work as it's intended to work, stop pumping the poisons into your body, whether it's ultra processed foods or the pharmaceuticals, like the kind of reaction is like, oh, this is all woo woo nonsense. You're all the carnivore bros and all this kind of thing.
Right. Well, I would say, well, I'm getting results with it. Like I can show you the medical test that said their A1C was 9.0 and now it's 4.9, right? So something happened, and they've been on your medication for 20 years and this happened in the last 6 months, right? Like I don't think it's the medication that did that, right? So like said, I do this in conjunction with a doctor. That I have had doctors tell me we can't take them off that medication. My liability insurance won't allow that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay. At the end of the day, I want what works. If there's a medication that works, oh yeah, keep them on that, right? There's no reason not to. Um, but I just think you know there was a time in this person's life when they weren't taking that medication. So, and they probably weren't as sick as they are now. So, if we can get them back to that time where they're not taking the medication, I'm not trying to, ruin the pharmaceutical industry. I'm sure there's some good medications out there. And definitely when people have a lot of pain, having some Tylenol or Advil is a really nice thing to do. And I get it. And I don't want to deprive my people of that. I'm not into, woo woo. I'm into what works. And I see the carnivore diet work every day. My caregivers, one of my cooks went on it because they're like, wow, these people are doing well. I should try this. She lost 37 pounds on it. And she's like, I love this thing. Yeah. So, um, I if you can show me it works, and I tell people, I'm not like, you have to do the carnivore diet or you're going to hell. It's, if you are a vegan and you're in great health with it, be a vegan. I'm totally happy for you. You know, whatever works, that's what you should do. And I just think there's so much information out there. There's so many I get lots of calls. Oh, you got to try this vitamin with your residents. You got to try this supplement. This will clear up their dementia for sure. I've tried some of that stuff and it doesn't do anything. I'm sure there's some good supplements out there. I'm a fan of taking vitamin D if you're low, those kind of things. That's great for dementia. Um, but you get bombarded with all this, and I think there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work. Not just the pharmaceutical drugs, the supplements, some of the therapies that you hear about, like ayahuasca. Someone wanted me to try that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that with my residents, kind of thing. So I want to, I tell my families, I, I'm willing to try anything as long as we know it's not going to hurt them. It's not going to bring them backwards. Okay. It's either going to do nothing or it's going to help them. And then we sort of from that start figuring out what is really helping them and getting rid of the rest.
Nice. So Hal, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way of getting in contact? And also, how can people contribute to the Give, Send, Go?
Okay, well, the Give Send Go is go to givesendgo.com/hyperbaric dash oxygen. And even if you put in there that you're praying for us, I'd love it. Um, Also, I have a website, a paradiseforparents.com. Um, I'm down to 3 homes. I'm kind of getting older and we're easing into retirement a little, but I'm still helping the people who bought my other 2 homes. So they're enthusiastic about doing this. I am on Twitter, my name, Hal Cranmer, or a Paradise for Parents you can search for. That's where I post probably the most. And then I'm on Instagram at Assisted Living Hal Cranmer, and we have a Facebook group for the homes, and then I have a Facebook group called Brainstorming Alzheimer's where I post sort of interesting videos or studies or papers or things like that to sort of help people who are struggling with a family member that might have dementia.
Fantastic. Well, I'll link to all of those in the show notes. Um,
Awesome.
Hal, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and experience. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I love what you're doing, Dave, getting this word out because I think this diet helps a whole lot of people. And I get phone calls from people who their family members not doing well, but they put them on a carnivore diet and they see great results. So the more you can spread this word, the better things are.